Megan Heffron-Foose, presenting to you about bullying and cyberbullying. So some of the topics that I'm going to be covering today are the definition of bullying, the different types of bullying, how common, who's at risk for bullying, those who bully and are being bullied, warning signs for teachers and parents to look for, and cyberbullying, and ways to prevent bullying and consequences for those who are bullied. So I'm going to start with explaining to you that bullying is one of the biggest challenges that we face, not only as educators but as parents as well. Unfortunately, many people will go unnoticed when they're bullied because they don't want to tell anyone, so that is a big problem that we're facing today. So I'm going to start with just bullying. Well, state laws have very little consistency in the definition of bullying. They have accepted one definition, and it states by the U.S. Department of Education and by many other healthcare professionals. Bullying is considered any unwanted physical or verbal aggression directed at a specific person repeatedly over a period of time, and it involves an imbalance of power and the acts to exclude victims from a group. It is further characterized by the bully repeatedly using higher social status that they have overcome to exert powers on the victim. So bullying is not something that occurs a once and done situation. It is repeated over a period of time. So what are the different types of bullying? So there are at least 5 different types. The first one is physical bullying, and this involves hitting, kicking, pinching, pushing, or attacking another person of any physical means. Verbal bullying refers to the use of words that are harmful to others: name calling, sexual assault, bigotry comments, harsh teasing, taunting, mimicking, and verbal threats. Relationship bullying focuses on excluding someone from a peer group, usually through verbal threats, spreading rumors, or some other type of intimidation. Reactive bullying involves the bully responding to being a former victim by picking on others. So that's if someone was bullied in the past, they become the bully. And bullying can also involve assault on someone's property. So it's not just the person itself, but if the bully is attacking someone's items, damaging, taking them. One of the big ones I teach at the high school level, I have noticed this year, was in the locker room. The kids taking the other kids' items, putting locks on their book bags so they can't open them, and things like that. Hazing is also another type of bullying. That's something that we see more in the sports complex of the world, or high school, or the older kids. And that could involve cursing and yelling at victims, compelling them to eat disgusting things, beating, whipping, branding, or tying up and gagging victims, requiring them to do sexual acts, or forced binge drinking. And that is one that we see a lot in the college times with the hazing. So how common is bullying and hazing? Some statistics say bullying, 28% of students from grades 6 through 12 have a history of being the victim of bullying, while 30% of high school students acknowledge having bullied others. So that is pretty alarming statistics. About 10 to 14% of children have been the victim of bullying for more than a 6-month time period. Most victims of cyberbullying have also been the victim of school bullying, and I will get more into cyberbullying later. Studies show that teachers often underestimate how bullying is occurring at their school, since they only see about 4% of the incident. The biggest issue is that the teachers aren't seeing it because the bullies are covering it up and hiding it. If they don't see it and the kid doesn't report it, then the people go unnoticed. And one of the things that I found a little bit shocking to me was the amount of bullying in the workplace. I really didn't think too much of it outside of this, and I'm not going to touch a lot on it because we're focusing on the school, but more than 40% of workers in the United States have experienced bullying in the workplace. More than 90% of women are estimated to believe they have been undermined by another woman at some point in their careers. Nearly half of high school students and more of half of college students have been part of a team, club, fraternity, or sorority that have been hazed at one point. That's nearly over half. So who is at risk for being bullied? No single factor puts one person at risk. So if you are overweight or underweight, that does not automatically mean you're going to be bullied. Depending on their environment, age groups, things like that, it really depends. One of the main issues is they were talking about, gay, lesbian, bisexual, young students with disabilities. And that's really why I focused on this topic, because I teach in the autistic support classroom, and all of my students have some form of disability. And I grew up in a world where I noticed more of the bullying towards those people. I'm fortunate to say in my school, we have not had any issues. The kids are actually really, really great to my students, but there have been other incidences in school around my surrounding school that have not been so fortunate. So generally, children who are bullied have one of the following risk factors. They are perceived to be different from peers, and that could be anything from underweight, overweight, they wear glasses, their clothes aren't as cool. One of the things my school district did away with logos and things like that, so no one's identified by their clothing that they wear. You're being new to school, you can't afford what's considered cool. Those that are weak and cannot defend themselves, are depressive, anxious, or have low self-esteem, are less popular than others, and don't get along with others. So those are some of the things, but that doesn't automatically mean that you're going to be bullied. So what about the bullies? Who is most likely to be a bully? Two different types of children. Some are well connected to their peers and have social power, but are overly concerned about their popularity, so they like to dominate other people. And other bullies are those who are isolated from their peers and may be depressed, anxious, or have low self-esteem, so therefore they actually bully others to make them feel better about themselves. Children who have these factors are more likely to bully others because they are easily frustrated and become aggressive, don't really have parental involvement much at home, think badly of others, have difficulty following rules, and maybe have friends who are bullies. Again, not one of these factors is a permanent thing that's 100% that you're going to be a bully or be bullied, but they're just some risk factors that increase your probability. So what can we look for as a warning sign that a child's being bullied? Because they're not always going to come forth and tell you that they're being bullied. So the main thing is you want to look for some changes, because recognizing it is the most important step to helping address it. It's important to talk with your children about bullying and being bullied and explain to them that you're safe, you can come to me, it's not going to make matters worse, we will work together as a team. You have to have that open door relationship, and if they don't feel comfortable, find people that maybe your child or your student feels comfortable opening up to. So you want to look for changes in a child. Some things that could be a red flag are unexplained injuries, black and blue mark on my arm, things like that, lost or destroyed clothing, books, or jewelry, frequent headaches, or even faking illness, changes in eating habits. Kids may come home to school because they didn't eat lunch, so they're starving when they get home, or they don't eat lunch at school, difficulty sleeping and frequent nightmares, grades, suffering, not doing their homework, things like that, sudden loss or avoiding social situations altogether, feeling helpless or very low self-esteem, and self-destructive behaviors such as running away, destroying property, or hurting themselves, or especially talking about suicide. And that's something that unfortunately goes hand in hand with bullying if it becomes too extreme. Some children think about that as their only alternative. So how can you tell if your child or a student in your class is bullying others? Kids may be bullied others if they get into physical or verbal fights, have friends who bully others, are aggressive, get sent to the principal's office more frequently, have unexplained extra money, maybe they're taking kids' money as a bullying tactic, or taking their items such as their clothes or shirts or shoes, anything like that they may have that they didn't have prior to that day that could have taken that from the other person, and they don't accept responsibility for their actions. So why don't kids ask for help? Statistics show in 2012, the indicator of school and climate safety, that less than 40% of adults are notified when people are being bullied. Kids don't tell adults for many reasons. Kids feel like they're helpless. Backlash, I know I've dealt with that a lot in my days in this school. If I tell a teacher the bullies are going to hurt me even more or make my life more miserable. Bullying can be humiliating. Maybe the kid's shy and doesn't want to tell you about it. Kids already feel socially isolated, so telling a teacher or telling an adult can even make that worse. Or they fear they're going to be rejected by peers. Bullying can affect everyone, and it has some severe consequences for some, which is really a shame, and that's why we have to address it head on. So kids who are bullied have the higher risk of being depressed or anxiety. School can be really a big struggle because they don't want to do their schoolwork and they're sunk into a depression and they just don't care. Health complaints, like I said earlier, they're faking illnesses, not wanting to go to school to avoid the bully, and the decreased academic achievement. Unfortunately, like I said earlier in the day in this video, that it could lead to suicide, and suicide is a very serious thing, and if you don't catch it and you're too late and you can't help the child who maybe didn't cry out for help because they were afraid to come forth about the bully. Another issue is a very small number of bullied children might retaliate. In the last 12 of the 15 school shooting cases in the 1990s, the shooters had a history of being bullied, so that is a major concern for us in the school system. So what about the kids who bully others? They may grow up to have abuse alcohol and drugs, get into fights, vandalize property and damage school property, engage in early sexual activity, have criminal issues, and be aggressive towards the children or the romantic peers. And what about the person who stands by and does nothing? That's called our bystander. They can actually have an increase in tobacco use, mental health problems, including anxiety or depression, or missed and skipped school because they don't want to go against anybody, but they're afraid to say anything because they don't want to become the victim of bullying. So cyberbullying is the other aspect of this topic that I chose, and that's something that's becoming more and more common today. Cyberbullying is bullying that takes place over digital devices like cell phones, computers, and tablets. Cyberbullying can occur through SMS, text, apps, online media formats, any of those things. It can be including sharing or posting negative comments about people, false content, anything that could be online that a kid could just feel awful about. The 2017 Youth Risk Behavior Surveillance System indicated that an estimated 14.9% of high school students were electronically bullied in the last 12 months. It's important to understand that children of cyberbullying and actions can actually be taken. Some of the things are posting comments or rumors about other people, threatening to hurt someone, making up a false profile name and pretending to be someone else. Or I had a student just this year, we had to go to the police regarding because this student who is autistic did not understand the repercussions of what he was doing, and he unfortunately met up with someone very negative online and sent him inappropriate pictures because she asked and he didn't know better, and she made promises, and then she turned and tried to blackmail him and said, if you don't send me money, I'm going to post these pictures. So we actually did have to go to the police about that. What you should be aware of on cyberbullying, if you notice a lot that your student or child is increasing their amount of time that they're spending on electronic devices, they exhibit emotional responses when they're on their phone. If you see them like getting a kick out of something, ask them, what are you watching there? What's so exciting? If you come near them and they hide their screen and they look very secretive, things like that. So it's important to notice what's going on in your surroundings. So reporting cyberbullying, like I had said before, we had to go to the police, and anything should be reported to the police if it's a threat of violence, child pornography, or sending explicit images or photos, taking a photo or video, or stalking or hate crimes. That should be immediately taken to the police. And reporting cyberbullying in the school systems, if it didn't get to that point, it's extremely important. If it causes any kind of a disruption to the learning environment, you have to notify your school, the administration, right away. There are all state laws that require cyberbullying and anti-bullying policies in schools. So how can we help kids understand and prevent bullying? First, we have to make them aware of bullying. We have to teach them who we can talk to as a trusted adult, reporting bullying, how to stand up to the bully, and just teach them, there's open lines of communication. We have to take action. So we want to encourage children to have a better self-esteem, encourage them to love what they're doing, model and treat others with respect, therefore it would help decrease the amount of bullying. Activities and things like that to promote anti-bullying within your school. Promote those kids, encourage them to tell an adult if there's something going on. Evidence-based curriculum and instruction to help students understand in school, as well as staff training. Help us as teachers become aware of what to look for, what are the signs, because the student might not come to us, but we can be a little bit more vigilant if they are on their phones a lot or doing things, or maybe have steered away from us a little bit more, trying to dig deeper to see what's really going on. Getting the parents involved in everything, I think that's a huge thing. I, as an IEP team member, have always worked to get my parents involved in everything. And parents can contribute. They can let you know if things are going on at home, or maybe things that we don't see at school, they'll see at the home. And having a school safety committee is a very big thing that we do here at our school. We have a Safe to Say program where kids can feel free to text, email. They don't have to come to an adult in person because they might be too scared to show or come to someone in face to face, so they have these options where they can go get support. So having a thing at school where there's a committee of people who work towards trying to always further education against bullying, and establish a reporting system. Like I said, we do the Safe to Say, so it goes through a line of command, and if they feel like it's an immediate threat, the appropriate resources are notified. If not, they know how to address it. One of the biggest things as a teacher, we can create a safe environment within our own school classroom that people feel safe, and we can discuss bullying during classroom meetings and always have an open communication with all students so they can feel comfortable coming to you as a teacher. And I think peer support also makes a huge difference. I think it's important that children feel like they can come to their peers if they need to, let someone know, and maybe that peer can come to you and let you know that something's going on with their friend. So I think it's important that students know that they're not alone and that we are here to help them. And even those who are being the bully, what's the reasoning behind it? Maybe we need to look further into why they're bullying before we just automatically shut them out as you're just a bully and give consequences. Let's find out what the reasoning is behind. So I really enjoyed doing research on bullying and cyberbullying, especially the cyberbullying, since that's something new that has come into light with the today's day and age. And one of the biggest things, consequences. There is a no zero tolerance policy for bullying. Even if it's something minimal, that's maybe all you know, it could get worse. So it has to be addressed head on. We just recently faced this within our community where there was a school who was caught bullying a student with disabilities who was just helping out at the school, and unfortunately, not as of yet, it wasn't prosecuted, but those that were bullying are actually suing the school because they felt like they were not given their right due process before they were suspended, even though they engaged in hazing behaviors and bullying behaviors within the locker room. They're trying to get out of it, and there's not enough consequences, and people are laughing and thinking it's funny. So there has to be consequences for those that are being bullied, or those that are bullying. And another important fact is those that are being bullied, get them the right resources. Maybe they need to speak to a counselor or have a support system. Don't just, okay, we took care of it, you're good to go now. Always follow up and make sure everything is going well. So I really enjoyed the bullying and cyberbullying, and I hope that I can now be a little bit more alert of what to look out for in those different kinds of situations. Thank you very much.